You know, persistence is one of those personal development cliches that we've all heard about, right? Way back from the era of Napoleon Hill and Think and Grow Rich, he was already talking about persisting until you succeed. And every personal development guru, from Earl Nightingale to Brian Tracy to Jim Rohn to Tony Robbins to whoever's famous right now, all of them talk about persisting, sticking with what you're doing long enough that you achieve the goal that you originally set out to. And in theory, it always makes sense, because if you started to do something, why would you quit just when you're not getting the result you want? However, as we all know, life often gets in the way, and it's not as easy as it turns out to persist at something. Sometimes the circumstances change. Sometimes we don't have the means or the resources, or sometimes we just don't feel like it anymore, and we start to doubt whether it's worth even persisting or bothering to commit to what we were doing. Now, this is true in business, this is true in personal goals, this is even true in relationships. There are times when you need to persist with the people in your lives or the things that you're trying to do, and you kind of feel like, am I being an idiot? Am I making my life worse by persisting in this situation when I should potentially give up? Now, in the past, I actually made a video specifically about when you should quit, when you should walk away from something in your life, and hopefully if you get a chance to watch that video, that will give you some different insights. But in today's video, I want to flip the script and I want to talk about the times when I believe it is worth considering persisting in your life. There are certain things that I've learned about persisting in my personal life, in my personal goals, in my business life, that have really helped me to keep going when the times got tough, or to change my tactic and to move in a different way and to achieve the goals that I wanted to achieve. So the first thing that I have learned about persisting is that sometimes you need to revisit your reasons. You need to really think about why it was you started doing the thing that you're trying to do right now, what it was that you wanted to achieve. There's an old famous saying that when you want to quit, remember why you started. And that's essentially what I'm saying here, is really look at the reasons, the deep reasons that you started doing something in your life, what it was that you were hoping to achieve, how you were going to feel once you had achieved it. Revisit those things in your life, and you might find that your motivation starts to be reinvigorated. You start to find your reasons again, and it gets you back on the path. Now, in certain situations, I have noticed when I revisit the reasons for starting something, sometimes they're not the same anymore. Sometimes I've actually grown in a different way, or life has changed, and maybe the thing isn't as important as it once was, and that's okay. Sometimes revisiting your reasons actually shows you that you don't need to persist, but in other instances, it will remind you of the real reasons deep down that you wanted to do something, and it will re-spark your motivation and get you back on the path. The second thing that I have learned that has helped me to persist in my life is to ask someone who has succeeded. Now, very often there is a tendency, especially if you're like me, to try and do everything yourself, to try and go your own way, to try and learn things yourself, when very often, if you just go and seek out someone who has actually got the success that you want, and you ask them how they did it, they will give you the right advice. Now, I'm not saying they're going to always give you a shortcut. Sometimes they will tell you to keep persisting like they did, but they may give you different ideas or strategies or an attitude or an approach that you didn't really consider before, and sometimes that small tweak or change can make all the difference. Now, again, this has kind of, become a bit of a cliche in the personal development world. Find a coach, find a mentor, blah, blah, blah. But the truth is that if you seek out someone who has or is what you want to be, very often, not only will it redouble your motivation because you've seen someone who has succeeded, but at the same time, they will give you insights that you can't have from your perspective. It will speed up your learning, it will probably push you further ahead on the path, and it will keep you wanting to persist longer than if you just try to do everything yourself. Now, if you can't find someone directly who has succeeded in the way you want to, maybe there's someone who's similar, or someone who is famous, who you've always admired. You can read their biography or autobiography. You can research things online. Sometimes there's a course or a training out there that can help you. So there's all these different ways to seek the counsel of those who've succeeded. And that is one of the keys I've found to being more persistent, is to seek out those who have or are what you want, and you will probably start to, by osmosis, learn what they've learned and start to incorporate it into your actions, and you'll probably find that you succeed faster over time. And the third idea that I have for you here is to try a different tactic. Now, very often the idea of persisting is that we just keep going at something in the same way, we keep pushing and we never give up. However, there's also that saying that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. And I think that's the downside of being too persistent or continuing to do something in exactly the same same way. And that's why I'm suggesting, and this is something I've learned, is that sometimes you have to try a different tactic. You have to stop, you have to say, okay, maybe this isn't working for me in this way. Maybe it's a certain career, or maybe it's a certain relationship you're seeking, or whatever it is. Step back and say, okay, maybe the relationship with that person isn't going to work, but I know that I would like to have a relationship. So you seek out a different relationship. Maybe it's in a certain career. Maybe you're not going to get ahead as quickly as you thought you would. Maybe you need to take a sidestep, but you keep persisting towards the thing that you want over time, remembering the reasons why you did it, and also by seeking out the counsel of other people who have succeeded in the same way. They will typically give you different tactics that you can try for yourself. Sometimes trying a different tactic means letting go of your ego, because very often we have our own ways that we want to do things in our lives, and they may or may not be the most effective, but we tend to get stuck and attached to them ourselves instead of realizing that we need to change in a certain way to get the success that we want. You know, one of the biggest lessons that I have learned about persistence is that the true value is in the character that it creates. So very often we think that the result that we want to achieve is why we're persisting, but actually the character that you develop as a result of persisting in your life is the thing that is more valuable to you over the long term, because then you have that character trait developed. It's almost like a muscle that you've built, this ability to commit, to persist, and to keep going in the face of adversity or setbacks. You find that you're actually able to do it again in different areas of your life. So for me, that's something I always remember too. Even though I'm trying to persist for a particular result, it's always good to remember that the character is something that's building as almost like a side effect of persisting. That helps me to stay on track just as much as seeking out the goal that I might want for myself, because I realize that I'm growing and developing. And at the end of the day, I believe that's the most important thing. If you grow and develop and change and actualize, then you are a success in your life, no matter what result you're seeking. My friend, I hope these ideas about persistence are useful for you. As I said, it can sometimes be a bit of a personal development cliche, keep just persisting and never give up. But very often we have to look at different ways. We have to revisit our reasons, or we have to seek the counsel of those who succeeded. Or sometimes we just have to try a different tactic, but keep on the path if we know it's valuable for us. Whatever it is you're trying to achieve, I wish you the very best with it. I know if you persist in your own way, over time you will achieve what you want. And more importantly, you'll develop character and you'll grow as a person as a result. My name is Daniel Midson-Short. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it useful, please leave a like below and share a comment in the ways that you've learned to persist in your own life and what kind of results it's brought for you. And please consider subscribing. We'd love to have you as part of this community. Thanks as always for watching. And as I always say, thank you for improving yourself.